Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton Wood.
Welcome to Let's Talk Recovery. I'm Debbie Lahman, and I'm your host for today. I am here with Susan. I get to turn the tables on her about once a month. We've kind of decided to do that. And so today, well, first of all, Susan, you can say hi to everybody since you're in the different chair.
Hello. Hi.
Well, I was thinking today, as I was thinking about what we were going to talk about, and one of the things that I was impressed to kind of start off with was, what is it about Unchained Praises that separates us from all of the other organizations and things that are out there, because we don't do the same thing. And part of Let's Talk Recovery is sharing with our audience exactly what it is we do. So what sets us apart?
Well, with the Let's Talk Recovery, it's about individual based, and individual stories. We want to help people. We want to motivate them and encourage them to choose a new way of life. With our one-on-one sessions, we listen and connect and motivate individuals to choose a new way of life, and not just the addict, but it's the families of addicts too, and that's the same thing that we do with the show.
Well, yeah, because the show shows basically the things that we deal with in Unchained Praises when we do the recovery coaching. And of course, in the past, we've done peer support meetings and those types of things. And then it's so encouraging, and that's the whole point of it, is to be able to bring to our audience, to those who are out there watching, the stories of success and also the struggle,
Right.
because it's always a struggle. It's just not, hey, I'm done. It isn't that. It never is. Isn't that correct?
Right, right.
So I was thinking about that. While one of the things that we do, again, at Unchained Praises, is we partner, if you will, with a lot of the other organizations that are out there that hold meetings and do things like that. We gather all of that information so that we can then share that with the people that we come in contact with. So we actually do partner them. And I think it is wonderful through the avenue of Let's Talk Recovery then to be able to tell those, because a lot of the people that we have had on here have had some real struggles where they just haven't been sober and in recovery, but they've had problems, and sometimes they've had to start over. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a bed of roses. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to start off on that foot as to, the things that make us different. What would you say the number one thing is that makes us different?
We do one-on-one individual recovery plans.
Right. And I, so many times, as I've talked with her so many times at the office and everything, is that they are individual. They're not, it's not a cookie cutter.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination. So along that line, one of the things that we do when we have a, let me back up. When you have somebody contact you, or has been referred to somebody's referred them to Unchained Praises, and you start talking with them, how does that very first session or meeting, how does that go? What is the first thing that you do?
Well, we want to tell them who we are and what it is that we do. The three things that we do is listen, connect, and motivate. And we want to see where they are. They may need detox. They may need inpatient services. They may need outpatient services. And we want to connect them to the service that they need most at that time.
So when somebody comes to us, they don't necessarily have to already have gone through detox.
Right.
We can connect them at that point with, okay, this is what you have to do first, and then from that point on. So there's that, I guess, for lack of a better word, an evaluation as to where they are.
Yeah, we need to meet them right where they are.
Okay. So so let's say that they do not need to go to detox. So what happens next?
Well, they may want to go into an inpatient facility. If they want to go into an inpatient facility, but they have already done the detox, then we want to encourage them to go to an inpatient facility to take the time they need to start the healing process. We encourage them to go to free facilities for the most part, Christ-centered facilities. It's not for everyone, but we want to connect them with what is best for them.
Do they necessarily know that they need an inpatient facility?
Most people know if they want to go into an inpatient.
How do you determine that? And I know it's not necessarily your determination, but are there things that you see that I'm thinking about people that may be watching that might be saying, trying to figure out what does that mean? How do I know that I need, or how do I know my loved one needs an inpatient facility?
Most people that they don't have anything, they don't have a job, they don't have a home, they have literally lost everything, usually want to go to an inpatient facility to start rebuilding their lives. People that still have a job, they still have a home, they want to do more outpatient services because they still need to keep the resources that they already have still going.
Okay. So, how long is a normal inpatient, or is that
about
determined?
4 to 6 months? There are some longer terms that are about 18 months.
Okay. Do we have any local in our area? Okay. All right. And so now, once they've done that, what is the next step?
They would have to call and do the intake for the inpatient facility. The facility wants to hear from the person
Right.
that's trying to get into the facility. So there's always an intake process, and sometimes there's a wait.
Okay, so now they've completed that, and now they are out of that. So does that mean they're A-okay and they can go on with their life as it was?
No, most people need outpatient services.
And how do you consider Unchained Praises?
We're an outpatient service.
Okay. And now, what is the next step that Unchained Praises would do?
We would sit down with them once or twice a week, depending on what they want, and have a one-on-one session. We do peer-to-peer counseling, helping them build their personal recovery plan.
Okay. Do you have, if I'm going to build my personal recovery plan, how do I know what it is if I don't even know what I'm doing?
Well, we would encourage tools of recovery, which could be different sayings of recovery. It could be meetings in recovery. There are a lot of different types of meetings now. It could be other outpatient services that do like relapse prevention programs, IOP programs, which is intensive outpatient programs, which is like 3 days a week. We would come alongside them and help them. It's all about structure. We would be part of their structure.
Okay. One of the things that I know that you do is it's not, again, I'm going to use the phrase cookie cutter because it isn't. It is very customized. There are some generalities, but then it's customized to the person.
Right.
Correct? Okay, so, and you mentioned that you meet with them 2 or 3 times, a couple of times a week, but it's at their discretion. It's
Yeah.
at their, whether they think they need it or they don't.
Yeah, it's all everything is up to them when it comes. comes to them coming in to see us.
How does that work? I mean, is that what kind of success have you seen with that?
Well, we have to build our own recovery for it to be successful. If somebody hands me a recovery, normally it's not going to fit. So for them to take the initiative to come in on their own is going to show the willingness for them to work on their recovery and to build it.
Excuse me. So that is the first step that you see is the person making that initiative. That
being
lets you know
willing.
where they are. Excuse me. Well, sorry about that. Sometimes we have to do that, don't we? But anyway, so a lot is put on the person in making that first step and doing things. And does that sort of separate it, sift it out a little bit of those that are going to maybe stick with it?
Sometimes, yeah.
And how, talk about that while I probably get a drink of water before I just keel over here.
Well, it just depends on the individual person and what they need. It boils down to willingness. What they're willing to do and how often they're willing to come in and to work on themselves. Willingness to partner with other organizations because we're an organization that's there to help doing outpatient services, but we're not the only outpatient services and we can't do it alone. We need other organizations to partner with us to help.
And another thing that I have seen you also mention when you're talking with somebody and you're working on their individual plan, you do encourage them to go to as many meetings as possible, in addition to meeting with you in a coaching atmosphere. But you encourage that. And tell us why that's important to go to all of those meetings. Does it seem like, boy, I'm just going to meetings to meetings to meetings, but why is that important?
Well, because structure is important. And recovery is about putting your family, your job, your things you do in your recovery, which is meetings. It could be therapy, a drug and alcohol counselor, a psychiatrist, all of that goes into one. So it's not just, normally we need more than just a one-on-one meeting. We need some group meetings or we need different types of one-on-one meetings.
Does that also help to fill, in essence, the void that the addict is feeling by not continuing in the lifestyle they had of, do you understand what I'm saying?
Right. We need to replace the lifestyle that we used to have. We need to replace things that we used to do with things that we need to start doing today.
And isn't part of the problem there too is it's kind of when you're sitting around, and I know this is one of the things we talk about, of just your mind not just wandering around and it's not focusing, where if you have these things, your mind is now focusing.
Too much idle time.
Yes, yeah. Well, I also know that what you also do as a part of structuring the individual recovery plans, we do have, and you have designed and implemented action plans. And I thought that at least we would begin on some of those action plans. And I know that you don't sit there when you have it, because we actually have a booklet. We've shown it on this program before, and we'll do it again another time. But it actually here's the action plans, and we have them, kind of 1, 2, 3. But they're not 1, 2, 3. They're just each category, if you will.
Right.
But you don't go down and say, okay, we're going to start here. We're going to start with this. You don't do that.
No.
Even with the action plan, how do you determine, or do you determine which one you're going to focus on or how does that come about?
A lot of that just comes up in conversation, where they're at in each different category. And there's so many of them that you'll always hit on one of them.
So as you're listening in that initial meeting
Yeah.
and that getting that information together, then they're going to say something that you're going to go, oh,
Yeah.
what they're saying really is here, and this is mostly what they're saying, so I need to maybe address this area.
Right.
Is that how you do
Right.
that?
And that's where active listening comes in.
Listening is very important, isn't it?
Yeah, it
And you
is.
can't jump to conclusions.
No.
Okay. All right, let's look at one of them. Let's look at what's our first one?
Acceptance, I believe.
Oh, yes, acceptance. Let's just talk about, I knew it started with an A and I was trying to think, which one is it, you know? But talk a little bit about that one, because I don't want to go into a whole lot of them, but I want to get as in-depth as we can on that so that our audience is now more educated, if you will, on things that you're doing as you are coaching and encouraging the particular person you're talking with. So what is acceptance?
Well, the first part of acceptance is accepting that you're an addict, accepting that you have a problem.
Doesn't the addict know they have a problem?
We all go through stages where we think we have control of it, that it's not bad enough, but we go through stages until we finally come
Okay.
to the acceptance part.
Okay, all right. How did that work for you personally?
It took a long time for me to accept that I was an addict.
So that's nothing that, I mean, that's not something that says, okay, I'm not doing it today, but maybe by January 23rd, I will be able to accept it. It
Right.
doesn't go that way.
No.
No. What were the things that hindered you from that acceptance? What was there, a
Comfort.
denial thing or what? Oh, comfort?
Comfort.
How's that?
Just still having comfort and a place to live and food, and if I still had, I can remember still having a job, or bouncing around from family to family. Comfort was a big part of me thinking that I still had control of my life.
Okay. So if you had those things, if you had the job, if you had a home or a place to stay or whatever, then you're like, well, I got this.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not that
okay.
bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So what else about acceptance now? Because the first one you said was admitting it, right?
Yeah, admitting, accepting the way other people feel about what we've done to them, accepting what we've done to our lives.
Did you and do most, I shouldn't say most addicts, we don't, it's an individual. Each one is individual. I've learned that. Did it take you a while to realize really what you were doing to your loved ones?
It took me a long time.
A long time.
It actually took me until I was in recovery to realize what.
So that whole
I had
time
done.
you didn't at all.
Yeah.
You never realized
I
it
never
at
thought
all.
that I was hurting anybody but myself.
And we've seen that so much. We've seen that in families. We've seen that. I think of this particular program is being recorded, if you will, and we're a week away from Christmas. And I think about that. I think about families that I know that are still going to have that empty chair. There, there's not going to be a particular gift under the tree that would have been there, for someone. And I like what, well, I don't maybe like what you said isn't, but I appreciate what you're saying about how that it took you so long to even realize, and not even until you were in recovery, that you actually were hurting somebody else. You never, I think for some of us, we're probably amazed at that. Like, hello? Did anybody, when you were in recovery then, did anybody actually approach you, I mean, like a loved one, and say, you got a problem, Susan?
When I was in recovery?
No, when you were an addict.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you
Yeah, my family stepped away from me one by one. They
but
stepped
they
away
did
from my
confront
life.
you. They did confront you and
My
say,
family
hey,
come in for an intervention at one point.
really, really. And so all of that now is still part of that acceptance. Until you realize, I'm guessing, that until you accept your responsibility in it and the fact of how somebody felt, your part in it, which obviously was a big part, so that's not, it sounds like it was not really an easy thing for you to do.
Right.
Do you see that in your recovery coaching with others? Do you see the same thing?
Oh, yeah. We can relate a lot with each other when it comes to our recovery and relate to when we were in active addiction. We have a lot of similarities.
So there's definitely is common ground there
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
What about, and you have also been a recovery coach with family members. So where does acceptance come in with a family member?
Accepting that their loved one does have a problem and they have to learn the difference in enabling and motivating.
Tell them the difference.
Well, as I said earlier about comfort, comfort is what kept me in active addiction. And if I'm being fed and I have a place to live and my loved one knows that I'm in active addiction and yet things are being provided for me, that can keep me in addiction. That's enabling me if they know that I'm in addiction. And so providing things, handing me money, giving me a place to live, feeding me, and giving me a roof over my head is actually enabling. And I'm not saying don't feed your loved one if they're hungry, but when we choose the addiction lifestyle, then to have our life comfortable is going to keep us in active addiction. If we have to go, there's soup kitchens. So if we have to go stand in a line and eat at a soup kitchen, then that's going to take some comfort away from us, and we're not going to go hungry because there's places out there that's going to feed us.
So when you are dealing with a parent, the parent is saying what? They're my child. I have a responsibility. It's a lot different than when they're little and you're raising them and they're just 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
It's a lot different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is that really hard for parents to really get a hold of?
Yeah, they really have a hard time, especially the feeding part. And I can understand that too. And there are families that even though they don't allow them in their house anymore, they'll still take them food. And I encourage them, if they're going to take them food, to take the food but not take money.
Always do that. I mean, if you're going to provide something.
Right.
But you're also, because you just said this a while ago, you're also, do you encourage them to, I don't want to say force, but almost force that child to go to a soup kitchen, if you will, as opposed to them even bringing them food?
Well, I encourage them to know that they're not going to go hungry, that there are places out there. If we can find our drugs, we can find us food too.
But then the the rub there is the addict knows mom and dad's always provided. So I'm just going to call them and, hey, man, I have nothing. I'm starving here.
I usually share the worst manipulation I ever used on my mom. I usually share with them, and usually that gets them listening, because we will manipulate, and that's just it. And it doesn't make us bad people. We're sick.
True.
In active addiction,
Yes.
we're sick, and we're going to use whatever means we have to, when we're in active addiction, to get what it is that we feel we need. It's not what we feel we need it. So we'll use the manipulation.
Can you share what that was?
The worst thing that I ever did was talk my mom into going to one of her neighbors and getting me a needle so I can shoot up in her bathroom. And I manipulated her to do that, and she did.
Wow. And that shows you that power of manipulation. And so you obviously you know it. I mean,
Yeah.
you did it, and so that's what you when you're talking to the parents, because that all comes under that acceptance, doesn't it? I
Right.
mean, we've just hit on the very first one, and with that part of acceptance, it's just not the addict accepting the fact that they are an addict and the fact that they need help, that they're not going to be in denial anymore, but it's the same thing with a parent. You know, very, very similar, isn't it?
Yep.
And you have worked with several parents in the past, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How have those gone in that area only of acceptance? Has that been of all of the things that you talk to with them, is acceptance, is that the hardest one, and it may not be?
It probably is the hardest because parents want to love it out of their kids, and you can't love addiction out of your child.
That's hard. It's very hard. Do you see a conflict when parents are concerned between mom and dad in relation to acceptance? How do you see that?
It tears families apart. It tears families apart because the one parent wants to do it one way and the other parent wants to do it another way.
When they first come in and they're there, do you think that they both think they want to be on the same wavelength?
Oh, yeah.
But does it happen pretty
Especially
quick?
when you believe in God and you know that God is bigger and He can take it away. The thing that most parents don't realize is we have to do the work. God can take anything away, but we have to do the work that it takes to keep it away.
That's a good point. Very good point. Well, I think that as we've talked about, you know, kind of what sets Unchained Praises and as a result, Let's Talk Recovery apart from other organizations. And then we have hit on the fact that we do individual, one-to-one recovery coaching. And we have hit on one of the tools, if you will, or the goals or action tools that we do, and that is acceptance. I think that one of the things that I've noticed with the people that have come, we have some that come very faithfully, and we still know that they're struggling. And I'm not so sure that they're all in complete acceptance of where they are.
Right.
And I've noticed, just based on what we've just talked, how important that is for them to accept where they are, because they can't go on until they have done that. Well, we wanted to be able to tell you, thank you, Susan, first of all. This was fun to do this. But the other thing we want to tell you is that we are so thankful that we have this opportunity, and we want to wish you a belated Merry Christmas, and thank you for joining us.